Hey guys, this is AwesomeJohn22, and I am here with my Monday review, which I'm actually filming right after my Sunday review, so it may actually be up early. I haven't decided yet. Today we are going to talk about something that I actually have some pretty strong mixed opinions about. We are going to talk about, if I can grab it, these guys, the new Iron Man 3 movie series assemblers figures. You can see the figures are already out of the packaging, but here's a look at the packaging. You have these guys, and you can see there's still some parts in there. We'll get into that in a minute. Packaging's pretty cool looking. You can see you've got the Avengers Initiative logo up there. 25 plus armor combinations. We'll get into that in a minute. There's our subjects of the day. The James Rhodes Iron Patriot and the Armor Mark 42. Here on the back you can see kind of what the line is about. It's really designed, and I think this is a cool concept, it's really designed to give you the ability to customize your figures by mixing and matching limbs. So it's like Iron Man is taking the best parts of his armors and creating better ones. And there's, for some pause action, Iron Man, and then Iron Patriot. And I know some people have mixed feelings about Iron Patriot being War Machine in the movie rather than Green Goblin. I like it. I think it's cool. I think it's going to depend on how it's handled in the movie, though, whether or not it actually turns out to be a good idea. But this is not just, as the title I'm sure has told you already, this is not just a review of these two figures, it is a review of the toy line itself. And I know what you're saying, AwesomeJohn22, how can you look at two figures and make judgment on the entire line? And it's actually really simple, because these two figures perfectly demonstrate what the line is about. Here are our subjects for the day. You have Iron Man there, and Rhodey Patriot there. They do not come with stands. These are extra Iron Man 2 movie figure stands that I had from all the Hammer Drone guys. Those guys had such big feet they didn't really need them. These guys don't really need them either, but I gave them stands anyway, just because their feet are smaller. Now let's get started right away looking at the figures themselves before I talk about the line. You can see here, very pretty figure. Zoom in a little bit. This guy is just a pretty figure. He has amazing molded detail. He has amazing paint apps. He could be perfect if not for the fact that this guy is an even better example of how gimmicks can ruin a figure than Transformers Cybertron toys. But we'll get to that in a minute. I'm getting ahead of myself. Next up is Rhodey Patriot. If you'll focus. There we go. See, paint apps on this guy are just as good. And all of this is completely remolded. That's not even a repainted Iron Man head. That's a completely new head. Which is very cool. Paint apps are, for the most part, just spot on. You got his gun hand things. You've got his little over-the-shoulder cannon there. New shape for his reactor there, which I think is very cool. It's got the star around it, of course. That's Iron Patriot, true and true. Now we're going to get into a little bit more about the toy line itself. Like I already pointed out, the purpose of this toy line is to allow you to create your own custom armor, which is a very cool concept. And it looks like there's going to be quite a few interesting looking figures in this line. I wouldn't recommend buying most of them, honestly. I only own these guys because I'm a Hall of Armors completist to a point. I like to have one of each of Tony's primary armors in my collection. In fact, I probably wouldn't have bought half the Iron Man 2 movie figures that I did if I didn't just like that line so much. I would have just stuck to buying each of his featured armors, rather than buying all these specialty armors that you saw in my collections video. I was really hoping that this series would kind of have the same feel for me, that I'd really want to buy a bunch of them and, you know, play with them and whatnot. It just hasn't done that for me, and we're going to get into why right here. You can see in there a bunch of armors on the back there, implying that this is going to be a big set. We get in here, pull out the tray. We have some of the alternate parts that come with this particular figure. This is the Iron Patriot figure. You have here this kind of shield blaster thing with a missile that comes behind it. And that is to draw more parallels between Iron Patriot and Captain America. You can see the missile fits in there. Fires very well. It's a cool gun. You can fit it in his arm, in a little peg hole there. And you can carry it around, and it looks kind of like Cap's shield, minus the star and stripes. And it fires the missile, and it's neat looking. You have something similar on Iron Man. I'm not going to pull out the other tray, it's a waste. You have something similar on Iron Man. You have these little peg holes, and weapons with this peg size can fit in the peg hole, and he can wield them, and it adds to the customization of the figure. But look where those peg holes are. They are right there on his elbows, which obviously poses a problem because it prevents him from having elbow articulation. That is right, folks. These guys, the successors to the Iron Man 2 figure line, which was famous for having fantastic articulation, don't even have elbows. They don't have elbows, they don't have wrists, they don't have ab crunches or ab swivels. They have, here, I'll show you, they have forward and back at the legs, if you can call it that. And they have no knees. They have no freaking knees. The Avengers movie toys were better than that. And their articulation was also crap. And it was the fact that they still had some sort of decent articulation and fantastic paint apps that made them worth buying. These guys don't have fantastic articulation. They have slightly better articulation than the main line from Iron Man 3, in that they actually can move in and out at the shoulders, whereas the mainline Iron Man 3 movie figures can't. That is another common problem we're going to get to in a second. As well as being able to rotate 360. And they do have ball-jointed heads, very nicely ball-jointed heads, that are very reminiscent of the Iron Man 2 figures. They have the same or a similar range of movement. And to really show that off, I'm going to bring in an Iron Man 2 figure. Here is the Mark 6 armor, one of the many different releases of him. I'm not sure which one. I've got a few. You can see he has wrists. He has freaking wrists. He has elbows. Not a full 90-degree elbow, but it's an elbow. Moves in and out at the shoulder. Does a 360 at the shoulder. Has a good ball-jointed head. He has an ab crunch / swivel. He can move in and out at the hips. And he has a double-jointed knee, and he has foot articulation. This guy is awesome. He's a 3 3/4 inch figure, and he has all of that? That's crazy. 3 3/4 inch figure lines do not have that much articulation. I'm looking at you, Star Wars. That's just awesome. And it was really the awesome articulation that led me to buy literally a plethora of other Iron Man 2 figures. I really got into the concept series. Movie-styled specialty armors because of the articulation. And some of them are some of my absolute favorite figures because they are big and bulky and cool, and yet they have that articulation. They have that amazing articulation. And these guys just don't have that. And this gimmick, this ability to pull their arms out and, real quick, pull out their arms and clip in other arms, just doesn't do it for me. And there is an additional aspect to this gimmick. You can take the legs off. I'm not going to do that, though. They're really, really hard to get back on. Before you say, yeah, that's the gimmick right there, but you can still play with the toy, and you still have additional arms and whatnot in the actual figure. It's not like you have to buy more than one figure. I'm going to point out why that's wrong. If you can see here, those are the exact same arm. They are the exact same arm. This one, the Iron Man arm, has a peg on top of it, but that doesn't make it unique. Otherwise, it is the exact same arm, the exact same molding, it's just repainted. It's nothing unique. It's cool that they give you the ability to use the gimmick with only a single figure, rather than making you buy more than one figure just to use the gimmick. But it doesn't make up for the fact that these guys are just really lacking. I like them, and in that I like their designs. I like them in that they add to my collection of headlining movie armors. I think they're great for all of that, but they're not good figures. They're not great figures. The Iron Man 2 figures were great figures. The only thing that these things do better is the paint-apps. With the Iron Man 2 movie line, you really had to watch out for figures with bad paint-apps because they were pretty prevalent. On these guys, you don't have to worry about that as much, but that is not enough to make up for the things that this series does wrong. My final verdict, guys, if you haven't guessed it already, is don't buy these guys unless you're like me and you want each movie armor represented in your collection, in which case this is really the best way to do it. These are the best options amongst the Iron Man 3 figures for that. Either Patriot or a regular War Machine. And then this guy here. Even with the new trailer, which shows a bunch of specialty armors, either being remote controlled or being controlled by military pilots, and coming to rescue Tony from Mandarin, presumably, doesn't really make me get excited about other figures in this line. So I'm going to say skip this line for the most part. Get these guys if you really want them. They look good as a display piece, but they are not good toys. For the most part, unless something drastically changes regarding this line, just kind of avoid it. It's not really worth your money overall. And I'm really sad to say that, because I really love the Iron Man 2 line, like I said. Otherwise, yeah.